Welcome to The Matt Bernier Show.
Back in the saddle again, The Matt Bernier Show here on DRF TV, live.drf.com. Today is Friday, July the 28th, 2017. My name is Matt Bernier. You can follow me on Twitter at Bernier_Matt. This show streamed live every Friday, noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific. And I say live, it's streamed every Friday, noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific. Live.drf.com, livestream.com, the Daily Racing Forums Facebook and Twitter pages. If you check it out, podcast, YouTube, SoundCloud, iTunes, video.drf.com. This is going to be heavy handicapping here this week. There won't be much of a recap because last weekend, again, unfortunately, we have an abbreviated show, and it came out a few days before the real races got drawn. So we had to just kind of wing and ding it. This time around, we've got big stuff at Saratoga tomorrow afternoon. We've got big stuff at Monmouth Park on Sunday, and we've got a big race down at Del Mar on Saturday afternoon. So we'll go into all that in a little bit. But let's first start off. Last weekend was a big sporting weekend if you were a fan of horse racing and golf. And I think there's a parallel to be drawn between the two of them. Let's start off with the golf for those of you that either have been living under a rock or you just don't like golf in general. I'm not going to hold that against you. But Jordan Spieth won the Open Championship last Sunday afternoon after starting off with a relatively large lead, and things got a little bit dicey on him. But let's just kind of backtrack a little bit. Let's go back to 2014. He nearly won the Masters as a, 21-year-old, 20-year-old, whatever he may have been at that time. And people immediately looked at it and took notice, as you should. A young man is not supposed to be that competitive on that kind of stage. And he nearly won the thing. Bubba Watson ends up running him down and drawing off as Sunday goes on. He comes back the following year and puts on that record performance. Did he end at 19 under? He was right in that ballpark, 19 or 20 under. I don't know if it set the record at the Masters as far as scoring is concerned. But then all of a sudden, everyone looks at it and says, this is the golden boy. This is the golden child. We're going to go on with it. He follows it up with a win in the U.S. Open in 2015 with some help from Dustin Johnson after 3-jacking on 18. And then he goes and he has a chance for the first time in a long time, possibly. I shouldn't say first time in a long time. No one's really done it, but the idea of the first time in a long time that someone could possibly have the calendar Grand Slam in golf, where he went into the Open and he ended up running a good fourth. He had a little bit of an opportunity on 18, couldn't quite get into the playoff with a couple of guys. I believe Zach Johnson won that year. And then he comes back and he runs second in the PGA Championship behind Jason Day, and that was when Day was really hitting his stride. So all of a sudden, Jordan Spieth, he owns everything. He's the best, he's the greatest. The comparisons to Tiger Woods and Jack Nicklaus and Rory McIlroy and all these other people that have done such things at such an age that really kind of separated themselves from the pack. And then you go to 2016. The Masters, everything is just rolling. He's just an unstoppable force at this point until he gets to number 12. And he puts his first tee shot in the water. And then from the drop area, he dunks another one. And he just blows up in epic proportion, in an epic fashion. And people immediately wonder, it's going to be tough for him to come back from this. Is there going to be scar tissue? You know what? Maybe he's not as good as we thought he was. And you know what? The rest of his major campaign last year anyway, left a little bit to be desired. T37 in the U.S. Open, T30 in the Open, T13 in the PGA. And again, people start to question, the difference between are you really great or have you just accomplished some good things? If you checked a couple things off on the board. Well, he comes back in the 2017 Open. The Masters, he struggled a little bit. He comes back in the Open, though, and he was putting on a show for the first 3 rounds. And Matt Kuchar, to his credit, was right there with him the entire way. And he goes into Sunday with a 3-shot lead. And early on, he just can't get out of his own way. That putter that basically is his bread and butter is just really not being kind to him, and he's missing a bunch of shorties that he normally would have put home. But the people immediately were saying that, you know what, we knew he was a bum. He couldn't do it. He was going to fold. He was going to collapse. Somebody tweeted at me, and I had to retweet them. I wasn't trying to be a jerk, but I was like, he's played 4 holes. There's still 14 to go. We got a long way to go. And sure enough, he hits his 13th drive off the face of the earth. Just off the grid, completely miles to the right, to the point where I don't think anyone at the R&A figured you'd have to worry about someone hitting a shot from over there. They get the whole practice teeing area situated. You've got the Titleist truck off on the side, and they're trying to figure all that nonsense out. He somehow makes a bogey, and as true greats do, he rebounds. And in his final 5 holes, he plays 5 under par, and he ends up not only winning, but putting strokes on Matt Kuchar. And Kuchar played the final 5 holes in 2 under. Now, you're probably wondering, why the heck am I talking about golf so much here? I think this ties in very nicely with Arrowgate. Arrowgate wins the 2016 Travers by 1 million lengths. Sets a track record at 1.25 miles, track record in the Travers, all that other stuff. He comes back in the Breeders' Cup Classic. He wins. He beats California Chrome on the square. He gave Chrome couldn't have had a better setup, better situation out there on the front, biding his time, setting easy fractions. Arrogate comes and runs him down. He wins the inaugural Pegasus World Cup over California Chrome. We know Chrome, he stubbed his toe. He wasn't feeling good that day, and that was the last time we saw him. Then he goes into the Dubai World Cup, pinched out of the gate, at the back of the pack, pulls a Zenyatta with Mike Smith, comes all the way around, beats a good horse and gun runner, and really destroys a good horse and gun runner. And then Saturday comes. He hadn't run since the Dubai World Cup, but this San Diego handicap was supposed to be nothing more than just a foregone conclusion. He was 1-20 for all the good reasons. On paper, he laid over the field, and then this happened. Trevor Denman turned for home.
Far back in the 4th spot, and Accelerator's opened up. Accelerator's well cleared to Domworth. Arrogate just not in the mood today. Arrogate will finish far back, and it's Accelerate and Victor Espinoza clear by 8-9 lengths here. Accelerate romps home in the San Diego. Second, Donworth. Third, Catberger. Obviously, something amiss today with Arrogate.
I thought it was funny when Trevor called out, just not in the mood today. Didn't feel like it. Well, I don't know what the situation was, but immediately, as Twitter is a 1-20 shot to immediately have an overreaction after something happens. People saying, he's not that good, he was overrated, overblown, yada, yada, yada. All I'm saying is, can we just take a deep breath and say, you know what, some of the things that he accomplished, and again, that goes back to the whole, what's the difference between accomplishment and overall greatness? The accomplishments are, you can't argue those. And I suppose the people that immediately after the San Diego wanted to come out and say, I told you he wasn't that good, and it was ridiculous to be comparing him to X, Y, and Z. It felt a lot to me like, and again, I didn't know what we were going to see on Sunday, what ended up playing out as far as the Open was concerned with Spieth, but it felt a lot to me like the minute Spieth put those 2 balls into the water on 12 at Augusta, and then he blew up and it was over, and then he just kind of was even for the rest of the year. That's kind of what it felt like to me, that people immediately just wrote off everything that he had accomplished prior to that, and to me, that's greatness. At that age, you're doing that on the world's biggest stage against the best players in the world. Arrogate has done that against the best horses he's had to face. I mean, there's really, what else is there to say? And then he has one performance, and again, I'm not excusing it. It was terrible. I'm not excusing Spieth dunking 2 balls on 12 on the par 3. It happens. They're not machines. They're animals, and Spieth obviously is a human being. I had it in quotes here on my little rundown as Spieth perspective. Let's wait and see what happens. Bob Baffert immediately came out and said, there is no excuse. He just didn't fire. The horse is healthy. We'll find out. They're planning on going into the Pacific Classic with him. I have a sneaking suspicion. Maybe he hates Del Mar. Who knows? I suppose it's entirely possible. And using that golf analogy, some courses just do not suit certain golfers. Does that mean that they're terrible golfers? No, not at all. If this horse, would he be the first horse that would just hate a racing surface? No. I have a hard time buying that. He's gone all over the world, and there hasn't been a problem with a racing surface. Now all of a sudden, Del Mar, that's the one racing surface that he just can't step on. I have a feeling if they do continue on and they go to the Pacific Classic, that there will be no question whatsoever that this horse, it won't be him laying an egg. If he doesn't run well there, it won't be because he's not ready. It'll be because either he hates the racetrack or there's something physically wrong. I just would appreciate some people taking a deep breath. Little USA, little namaste, whatever you want to use your yoga terms. Just bring it in and say, you know what? He's still done some really incredible things in a short amount of time. And all of a sudden, if he comes back and he wins the Pacific Classic and he wins the Breeders' Cup Classic and that's it, I think all of a sudden that great talk is going to just start chiming up again. I think anybody that's writing him off and saying that he's not as good as we thought he was is making a very, very big mistake. Case in point, Jordan Spieth in the Open on Sunday afternoon. We're going to take a break here on the Matt Bernier Show. When we come back, we're going to dive into the handicapping right away. The middle segment is going to be all about Saratoga, 3 graded stakes races, all of them on the dirt, culminating with the Jim Dandy. You're going to get the rematch between Always Dreaming and Cloud Computing. Stay with us.
Coming up this summer, it's Spa Babies presented by WinStar Farm. Every Wednesday through Sunday during the Saratoga meeting, Nicole Russo and I will analyze the best 2-year-old races at the spa. We'll go beyond the past performances and discuss pedigree, trainer patterns, workouts, and more. It's Spa Babies presented by WinStar Farm every Wednesday through Sunday at video.drf.com.
Say goodbye to your inner caveman. If you're making caveman bets on pick sixes, you could be leaving money on the table. DRF Bets Ticket Maker helps you build more profitable exotic bets and place them with one click. Raise your game with DRF Bets Ticket Maker. Be a samurai with your ROI. DRF Bets Ticket Maker helps you cut out unprofitable exotic bets before they happen and be the master of profits. Raise your game with DRF Bets Ticket Maker, the exotic wagering app.
Well, the amazing thing about our work was just how similar he is to Uncle Mo. I mean, right away of all of Rapoli's babies, he stood out as the most advanced, the most precocious, and the most talented, and that was exactly the same thing we'd seen a few years before with Uncle Mo.
Outwork wins it for John Velasquez.
To be able to win a Grade 1 like the Wood Memorial in only his 4th lifetime start was very impressive.
It is Outwork in front.
(12:11) on the East, 9:11 on the West. The Matt Bernier Show on DRF TV, live.drf.com, livestream.com, Twitter and Facebook as far as the daily racing form is concerned. Let's dive into it again. I told you at the top we're going to have a lot of handicapping this week. 2 different segments, both of them. One is Saratoga, the other one is going to be Del Mar and Monmouth. Let's start off with the Spa for this middle segment. 3 races, all of them graded on the dirt. 2 sprints, 1 route. Let's start off with the Amsterdam, the first of 3 and the first of 2 as far as 3-year-olds are concerned. There it is, not a big field. Got a field of 6 in here. Singing Bullet in post-position order. These are my odds. Now, I know last week we had a little bit of a hiccup, but again, that was just strictly from a timing standpoint. Those of you that are familiar with this show, you understand how this works. That's my value line on the far right-hand side, not the morning line that Travis Stone puts out. Singing Bullet 5-1, Coal Front. John Velasquez and Todd Pletcher, he is the favorite at 7-5. And then I've got 4 horses that basically throw a dart. Mocash, 8-1. Aquamarine, 8-1. Excitations, 8-1. Toga Challenger, 8-1. I think it's interesting in this spot. I mean, Coal Front has looked like he could be anything at this point in his career. He's only started twice, though, and that's a little bit of a concern for me. He has all the buyers. He has all the speed figures. He makes all the sense in the world. He's going to be less than the 7-5 that I pegged him, and I believe Travis pegged him at 7-5 in the morning line. I would assume he's going to go off at 3-5, maybe 4-5. He really hasn't done anything wrong, but at the same time, he hasn't been very professional. I don't like the fact that in his career debut, he was very late to change leads at Keeneland, and then his most recent start at Belmont, he was very early to change leads. And it's one of those things, you know, at a short number, this is going to be the first decent field anyway that he's really facing. I think he's a nice horse. I think he's the most likely winner in the race, but I think he could be a little bit vulnerable at a short number. My live long shot and my pick in the race, I don't know how much of a long shot he's going to be, is the inside runner, Singing Bullet. This is an interesting runner going out for Dale Romans. I think you can go a number of ways, but I think the biggest thing about him is he's always been handled like a good horse, and he's got a beautiful pedigree. I believe his mom is life at 10. He's by Hard Spun. He had some time off from his final race as a 2-year-old to his 3-year-old debut at Churchill, and I know he called it a sloppy track. It's always dangerous to take what you see on a sloppy track at face value, but he just he looks like he's got some quality to him. He's slow right now on paper, there's no denying that, but I'd like to think that, you know what, with a forward move second off the bench, he's going to need to take a step forward, there's no question about that, but I'd like to think that that's within the realm of possibilities, and he could offer some value. I think he's probably going to be in the 5 or 6-1 range, as opposed to the 10-1 in the morning line, but I have to peg him as the live long shot. And by the way, these little titles, these are going to be gone here in a few weeks. I haven't really told anyone yet, or any of you guys anyway, but we're going to have an overhaul with this show coming up in the next probably 5 weeks or so. But we'll get into that. That's another story for another day. So live long shot from me in the Amsterdam is Singing Bullet. Most likely winner is Coal Front. Let's move on to the Grade 1 Vanderbilt field of 8. These are older horses going 6 furlongs on the main track. In post position order, Sparty 8 is 24-1. Awesome Banner 6-1. El Deal 6-1. AP Indian 3-1. Birdsong 9-1. Ready for Rye 10-1. Green Grotto 32-1. Limousine Liberal 7-2. This is a race where, I'm picking Limousine Liberal. I'm not thrilled with this race. I wish I had a stronger opinion on someone. Limousine Liberal, I'm kind of just defaulting into him. He's in good form. I think Ben Krolberg's done a good job with him. They put the blinkers on going back last year in the Phoenix. That was down at Keeneland, and he ran into AP Indian, and AP Indian had everything he could handle. And for me, that was when Limousine Liberal kind of woke up and kind of refound himself once the blinkers went on. So he's in really good form. I don't know about the class. I don't know that he's quite this good, but from a figure standpoint, he's not far behind the horse he's going to need to beat. The horse he's going to need to beat is AP Indian. I think AP Indian is a bit of a vulnerable favorite, and we're going to take a look right now. This is his run in the Maryland Sprint. Now, you could make the argument that the old AP Indian wins this race. I'm going to be kinder and say he ran a very, very good race. Awesome Banner is also there in that yellow cap. He ran his eyeballs out that day, and they both got run down by Whitmore, who's on the outside. Keep in mind, Whitmore at the time was the bee's knees, and I feel like Whitmore all of a sudden has gone from hero to zero, which again, we've got that sort of reactionary mindset here as far as racing or just things in general are concerned. I thought AP Indian ran a winning race there. I'm not going to hold it against him that Whitmore, who was just in razor-sharp form at the time, came and ran him down at Pimlico. But I do think he's a bit of a vulnerable favorite because he's going to get overly bet, and thus far he's 0 for 2. You can make the case he's run 2 winning races this year. His run in the Commonwealth, he beat everybody but Awesome Slew. Awesome Slew's a really, really nice 7/8 of a mile runner. AP Indian, he is a horse that I think if you're playing multis, you have to use him. You probably use him as an A. From an individual race standpoint, I pegged him at 3-1. I know he's going to be shorter than that. To me, he's a bit of a vulnerable favorite and a horse that I would like to take a shot against with. Let's move on to the Jim Dandy, which I think many people would argue is the race of the day on Saturday. I know it's only a field of 5. We're going to take a look at the field right now. You have a rematch between the number 1 and the number 2. The number 1 is Always Dreaming, the Kentucky Derby winner, making his first start since the Preakness. I've pegged him at 2-1. The number 2 is the Preakness winner, Cloud Computing. I've pegged him at 9-5 for Javier Castellano. The 3 is Giuseppe the Great. Giuseppe, you killed me last time I picked you on NBC, and I picked you here in all of the stakes previews that we did in the Dwyer. And I think Illman might be onto something that he probably doesn't want to be as close to the pace as he was. I still think he may be up against it here in this spot, even with the equipment change at 10-1. Pavel, boy, you want to talk about ambitious. Stretching him out from a maiden score at 6.5 to a 1.125 at Saratoga. I think he's very, very talented. I think Mario Gutierrez and Doug O'Neill, obviously they've had success, as well as Paul Redham. I think he's in a little bit deep. I made him 7-1. And Good Samaritan. Good Samaritan might be very, very talented. I shouldn't say might be. He is very, very talented. But this is a big ask. And I picked him at 7-1 here. And we're going to take a look back again at the big showdown. I think people look at this as a 2-horse race, essentially. The last time these 2 horses hooked up, it was the Preakness. Dave Rodman turned it for home.
Conquest, my money. Guanavera is trying to gear up on the inside, but is under a drive, and they're into the stretch here at Pimlico, and Julia Leperoux and Classic Empire have a 3-length lead, but Cloud Computing on the outside is coming with a run. Cloud Computing outside keeps on coming. Classic Empire, Cloud Computing, head-to-head down to the line. Cloud Computing wins the Preakness.
I just love that Cloud Computing went and ran down Classic Empire. I know that Classic Empire had the more difficult of the 2 trips. He had to put away Always Dreaming, who, by the way, you didn't really get to see because he was up the track at that point. I just think Cloud Computing is the ultimate horse that we don't know his ceiling just yet. And I'm also reluctant to say that we know what we are going to get from Always Dreaming. We know what we're going to get from these other horses just because they've run more frequently. I mean, keep in mind, these 3-year-olds, they're still developing. We won't know really what they are, at least the way that I look at these horses. You won't have a finished product until probably the end of this year or the beginning quarter to third of their 4-year-old campaign if they go on to be 4-year-olds. Because keep in mind, they're still maturing. We're talking about essentially freshmen in college right now. I mean, we're not dealing with fully developed horses. So I think they all have scope for improvement. I think Cloud Computing, though, is the most likely winner of this race. Again, 9-5. I don't think I'm going to get 9-5. I think Travis Stone's morning line is quite accurate. I think Always Dreaming, Cloud Computing, they're going to go back and forth as far as favoritism is concerned. On the line, I think Always Dreaming is evens. and cloud computing might be 6-5, and everybody else is much higher than that. To me, it's just, I don't want to find out, but I do think cloud computing is the most likely winner of this race. And if you recall a few weeks back when I did that sort of prediction as far as 3-year-olds and Eclipse Awards in general are concerned, I predicted cloud computing to be the 3-year-old champion. We'll find out if things continue on that path. Starting tomorrow in the Jim Dandy. About 12:20 on the East. We're going to take a break. When we come back here on the Matt Bernier Show, we shift gears. We go out west for one race on Saturday. That's the big Crosby ad down at Del Mar. Then we also preview the big one on Sunday. It's going to be the first time we've talked about it here at DRF. We're going to film the Race of the Day preview later on this afternoon, but it's the Grade 1 Haskell down the Jersey Shore at Monmouth Park. Stay with us.
Coming up this summer, it's Spa Babies presented by WinStar Farm. Every Wednesday through Sunday during the Saratoga meeting, Nicole Russo and I will analyze the best 2-year-old races at the spa. We'll go beyond the past performances and discuss pedigree, trainer patterns, workouts, and more. It's Spa Babies presented by WinStar Farm every Wednesday through Sunday at video.drf.com.
Say goodbye to your inner caveman. If you're making caveman bets on pick sixes, you could be leaving money on the table. DRF Bets Ticketmaker helps you build more profitable exotic bets and place them with one click. Raise your game with DRF Bets Ticketmaker. Be a samurai with your ROI. DRF Bets Ticketmaker helps you cut out unprofitable exotic bets before they happen and be the master of profits. Raise your game with DRF Bets Ticketmaker, the exotic wagering app.
Well, the amazing thing about our work was just how similar he is to Uncle Mo. I mean, right away, of all of Rapoli's babies, he stood out as the most advanced, the most precocious, and the most talented, and that was exactly the same thing we'd seen a few years before with Uncle Mo.
Outwork wins it for John Velasquez.
To be able to win a Grade 1 like the Wood Memorial in only his 4th lifetime start was very impressive.
It is Outwork in front.
$12:22 on the East, $9:22 on the West. The Matt Bernier Show, DRF TV. Let's dive into it. We've got 2 races left that we'll go over for this upcoming weekend. Let's go down where the turf meets the surf down at Old Del Mar. Saturday afternoon, the Grade 1 Bing Crosby. Let's take a look at this field. It's a big field, big bulky field of 11. This is a win and you're in, by the way, I believe, for the Breeders' Cup Sprint in post position order. The number 1, Denman's Call for Doug O'Neill, 13-1. Dre Fong, the Breeders' Cup Sprint winner from last year, makes his first start since that race, 3-1. St. Joe Bay, 12-1. Ransom the Moon, 3-1. Big Mocker is expected to scratch, so he is not factored in to this value line. The 6 is Magic Taste, thanks for coming, 99-1. Coastline, 99-1. Looks like he's a pace setter. Roy H, 3-1 as we turn over to numbers 9 through 11. Solid Wager. I think he's a sneaky horse in here if you're looking for an underneath. 24-1 for Peter Miller. Kobe's back, 32-1. Hard-hitting old boy, but I think he's lost a step. And Mo Candy, 24-1. I think a lot of people are going to look at it and say, Dre Fong, Dre Fong, Dre Fong. I get it. He won the Breeders' Cup last year. He's really, really talented. He hasn't done anything wrong. But considering he's been gone for, 8 months, 9 months at this point, we haven't seen him in a long, long time. He's a horse that wants to be forwardly placed, and with the likes of St. Joe Bay in here, with the likes of Coastline in here, Mo Candy is no slow horse, but from that outside post, he's probably going to sit just a little bit. Dre Fong's going to have to work. He's going to have to work early, and he's going to have to work often, and if he puts away those other speeds, he's going to have to deal with the horses coming from just off, particularly Ransom the Moon. We're going to take a look at Ransom the Moon's most recent race in the San Carlos. He ran into another Baffert called Dancing Candy down on the inside, and I needed Ransom the Moon to steal one of Mike Watchmaker's phrases, like I needed oxygen. I needed him in the worst way, and he couldn't quite get there because Dancing Candy is just a really, really good horse. Ransom the Moon, though, take nothing away from him. You see Kobe's back about 5 lengths behind these two. Ransom the Moon ran his eyeballs out that day. I have a sneaky feeling Dre Fong is going to get softened up just enough. And Ransom the Moon, I don't know that he's going to pay some sort of giant mutual, but I'd hope for at least $8. As you can see, I made him 3-1. I think he's the most likely winner in this race, Ransom the Moon. I know that Dre Fong has every right to win. I know other horses in this race have every right to win. The fastest horse in the race is Roy H., by the way, who I really haven't mentioned yet. Roy H. set a land speed record in the True North when Peter Miller shipped him out here to New York on Belmont Stakes weekend. I think he's a very interesting runner. I think going forward, I mean, if he replicates that 111 buyer, he's going to win the race with a 111 buyer. The only concern I had with Roy H. is that race, that True North, has come back kind of questionable at this point. I mean, he had stall walking dude. He earned a career best buyer that day in his $750 million start. So there's some things to be a little bit concerned about, or question about, as far as that 111 from Roy H. is concerned. But again, he's a logical contender in here. I think the most likely winner, though, is Ransom the Moon. I want to give plenty of time to the Grade 1 Haskell. It's a win and you're in for the Breeders' Cup Classic. It's going to come up Sunday afternoon. Let's take a look at the field in post position order. Irish War Cry, 4-1. He's the local hope. He's being called the house horse for all the right reasons. 4-1 for Irish War Cry. Value line, not morning line. Battle of Midway, Flavian Pratt, Jerry Hollendorfer, 10-1. Timeline, Javier and Chad, 4-1. Practical Joke, Joel and Chad, 6-1. McCracken, 6-1. Hence, 16-1. Gervin, 5-1. This is a fascinating race. You can make a case for all 7 horses. You really could. Some of them obviously stronger cases than others, but you could make a case for all 7 of the runners. I think it's wide open. I kind of, right in order, I feel like Irish War Cry is the kind of horse that, you know what, he's probably the most likely winner. I don't necessarily trust him, even though this has been the goal all along. Because we know the story with the owner is the daughter of Mr. Haskell, the person that this race was named after. He has all, and he's a Jersey bred. He's going to get bet off the board on Sunday afternoon. Battle of Midway. He's run really good races. I still don't know how good I actually think he really is, because he didn't look all that impressive winning that Affirmed. And guess what? There was nobody in that race. He had to work a little bit. I know it was essentially a paid workout, but he's got to prove to me that he's actually this good. And he's going to get bet a little bit, I think. Timeline is not the wild card in here, but boy, Timeline could be anything really at this point. You look at the Timeform US ratings, Timeline is an incredibly fast horse. He's got multiple 124 Timeform US ratings. He's only run 4 times. He's unbeaten. He is basically the cloud computing, in my opinion, of this race, where we've seen these other horses. That's not to say they can't improve, because like I said, I still think they're going to improve all the way up until the beginning of their 4-year-old year. But this horse really, I mean, he hasn't raced much, and he still is running really, really quickly. I think he's very interesting. Practical Joke, I think you can make the case he is arguably the most talented horse in the race. I don't think he wants 9 furlongs. I'm going to stand by that. If he wins, I'll lose, because I just don't think he wants this distance. McCracken, I've always liked McCracken. I'm starting to wonder if is he just a little slow? Is he just a little bit slow? Because that race that he won, I know that Matt Winn, he looked professional. He's always looked professional. But you've had 2 horses come out of that race, and they both earned 90 buyers. And McCracken earned a 93 that day. I don't know how much better he's going to get. He's a little bit slow right now. And I wonder, too, sneaky, maybe he's a one-turn horse as well. Hence, I've never been a fan of Hence. He looked really, really good winning the Indiana Derby. The only thing I'll say is, outside of him, nobody really did any running. It was 1, 2, 3, 4. When they were 1, 2, 3, 4 halfway through the race, 1, 2, 3, 4 ran 2, 3, 4, 5. And Hence was the only one that came up and made up any ground. I don't love his prospects on Sunday, but would it be an absolute stunner if he won? No, probably not. That leads us to Gervin. Gervin's a horse that I think it's become fashionable to knock any horse that has ever run at fairgrounds. Whether that's fair or not, that's entirely up to you. I was part of the group that said, you know what, I don't know how good he actually is. He was popping back to his left lead in all those races down at the fairgrounds. But then you found out that he didn't have the greatest feet in the world. And guess what? Kind of important in horse racing to make sure your feet feel good. He had bar shoes on. He ran in the Derby over slop. I'm not going to hold that against him. He missed workouts, da-da-da-da-da. He takes some time off, and then he comes back in the Ohio Derby. And we're going to take a look at the Ohio Derby right now. Now, at this point, we haven't seen, but going into the far turn, he took heat from 2 different Luch runners on both sides. He was all out for at least a half mile. He's getting a little bit short here, and you see IRAP, who's on his left lead right now. He's going to change very late, and he's going to just get up with, arguably, I love our friends at Thistledown. Terrible camera angle, because I really thought that Gervin had won the race, but he didn't. IRAP did. The only thing at that point, I'm looking at it going, okay, well, I didn't love the race going into it. I didn't love the horses, all this other stuff. IRAP has come back, and he's looked like IRAP won the Indiana Derby. Which race did Hence win the Iowa Derby? Somebody can talk to me. Just correct me if I'm wrong on Twitter. You get what I'm saying. IRAP came back and looked really, really professional. And I wonder if he's the kind of horse that it just took a little while for him to get things together. I have a lot of confidence in Joe Sharp. I think this horse is interesting in here. I made him 5-1. He's going to be my live long shot. And spoiler, he's going to be my pick in the Haskell. I think he could work out a decent enough trip. I think the inside two runners, Irish War Cry and Battle of Midway, go. I think Timeline is going to be just off of him, and I think Gervin's going to be right there with him. I want to see what happens when Timeline gets into a fight. I want to see what happens when Irish War Cry. Is he going to deliver one of his big efforts, or is he going to deliver one of his bombs? And Battle of Midway, I'm not entirely sure how good he actually is. Gervin, I know, is going to be a bit of a number. I'm going to go with Gervin in Sunday's Haskell. If you're curious, 5 o'clock Eastern, NBC, Sunday afternoon. We'll be down there on the Jersey Shore to find out who's going to win the Grade 1 Haskell. To win, you're in for the Breeders' Cup Classic. 12:30 on the nose here on the Matt Bernier Show, live.drf.com, livestream.com, Twitter and Facebook for the Daily Racing Form. If you watched live, thank you for doing so. If you missed it or you want to catch it again, something you thought you heard and whatever it may be, you've got the podcast. You've got YouTube, SoundCloud, iTunes, video.drf.com. Next week should be a fun week. This show on Fridays, though, is going to get a little bit wonky. Tuesday, I'll be joining, at least that's scheduled, I'll be joining the boys for Natal and Kinchin on the DRF Players Podcast. And Friday from Saratoga, we're going to do a bit of a joint show where it's the Matt Bernier Show as well as the Daily Racing Form Players Podcast, all tied into one. I don't know how it's going to happen. I don't know what it's going to look like. There probably won't be any visuals. But going forward, my travel schedule is going to be a little bit hectic. So I may not be here in the studio on Fridays for a little while. Maybe we're going to have some tape things. Maybe we'll have some Skype things. But this show will go on, as it always does. It will go on. It may not be 30 minutes, maybe 15 or 20, but it will go on. As we always do here on this show on Fridays, we tie it right in to the latest edition of Out of the Gate. Everybody is included. We've got everybody. It's me, it's Illman, it's Beer, it's Nicole Russo, it's Jonathan Kinchin, it's Craig Milkowski. Most of the focus is going to be on Saratoga, but you're also going to get a little bit of Del Mar in there and all sorts of other good stuff as well. So without further ado, best of luck wherever you're playing, however you're playing, whatever you're playing racing-wise this upcoming weekend. You got races Saturday and Sunday, big races going forward for the 3-year-olds as well as other divisions. Best of luck. We'll talk again next week, Tuesday and Friday. Without further ado, Out of the Gate.